Good afternoon and welcome to the 8th EU-ASEAN Regional Youth Talk Show. My name is Inda Gunawan, but y'all can call me Inda G. And I am so honored to be here today to share the screen with a lineup of inspiring youth from ASEAN. Really quickly though, just let me formally introduce myself to everybody. I am from Jakarta, Indonesia, proudly born and raised, I should add. And I am a published author, an aspiring entrepreneur with a freshly launched cosmetics brand. But what I'm most well known for is for my online presence. I am a full-time social media content creator, and I'm especially popular as being the host of my own podcast show, The Inda G Show. And joining me today as my co-host is Lucas Gaidos, Charge d'Affaires ad interim of the EU delegation to ASEAN.
Thanks very much, Inda G, for that kind introduction. And hello, everyone. I'm Lucas, also based in Jakarta. Been here for 3 years. And thank you very much for tuning in and being here with us, choosing to spend our afternoon and your afternoon by discussing something that is very meaningful. But okay, let me not spoil everything just yet.
All right, so Lucas, let's just jump straight in. Could you reiterate the EU's stance on the youth as agents of change in sustainable urban development?
Yes, sure. I'll try to do so very briefly and in rather clear terms. I think it's obvious to all of you and to all of us that youth is of major importance. People like to patronize sometimes people who are young and say, yeah, you're the future. But I think we very much believe that you are the present. You already have a lot of agency at your disposal and you can make things happen. And this is what today's show is all about. But since you mentioned the EU, as a representative of the EU, I think I'm obliged to mention some of our policies, something that we do with regards to youth. For us, basically making sure that young people are involved. It's all about shaping and implementing external action of the EU. It's our top priority. It's also a top priority for our Commissioner for International Partnerships, Ms. Jutta Urpilainen. And what we've been doing is a series of steps. Perhaps one to mention would be the Year of Youth, which was last year. And this year, we have the European Year of Skills. So I think you can see how the two are related and how they go together. We also launched the Youth Action Plan in EU External Action for 2022 to 2027 last year. Sort of first ever policy framework for strategic partnership with young people, not only in Europe, but also worldwide. So that's why it should be of interest to you. This was adopted in October 2020. There are 3 pillars of action which are worth remembering. The first one is all about engagement. I think it doesn't really warrant any further introduction. It's basically increasing your voices in policy and decision making, making sure that you're heard. Secondly, it's about empowering the youth. I mean, empowerment has many different aspects, but one of them to perhaps highlight is about fighting inequalities and, importantly, providing the youth with the skills and tools that they need to thrive. So this is the link with the European Year of Skills, which I mentioned earlier. And last but not least, it's about connecting. So fostering opportunities for young people to network and to exchange with their peers worldwide, which is perhaps something we're doing right here, right now, but also something that our guests have been engaged in. And yeah, I think they'll say more at a later stage. Thank you.
And of course, who better to talk about the topic of sustainable urban development in the modern age than the people of the modern age, right? So joining us today as our panelists are 3 young urban heroes from Vietnam, the Philippines, and Laos, respectively. So let's go ahead and see them in action.
I'm Tan from Da Nang Zero Waste Community. Our organization is best described by 3 words: creative, collaborative, and wholehearted. Our biggest achievements which help to reduce waste in ASEAN include establishing the 1,500 member Zero Waste Community in Da Nang, the 3rd largest city in Vietnam, composting 10 tons of organic waste and separating 500 kilograms of low-value plastics in 2022. Every day we assist the community members in making compost and separating daily waste to reduce the amount of the unseparated waste going to the landfill in Da Nang. The next milestone of our organization is growing the community to 3,000 members. Organizations should join Urban Heroes because the campaign will be conducted in 3 months. It will bring us together. Individual organizations will be brought up to the regional scale, and the campaign will highlight the youth movements across the region tackling the waste issues. I know as single individuals or organizations, you feel lonely and frustrated. This is the opportunity to connect us. The future is in our hands. Let's take action before it's too late. I already joined. I hope to see you there.
Let's say
Hey guys, Shopao here. In collaboration with SOS, Scholars of Sustenance, I would like to bring awareness to food wastage.
that's right, Chopao. carbon dioxide. Help me save the planet, Xiaopao. Let's go!
Food rescue, it's a practice. For us, we work with different food establishments and then we talk about their excess food, surplus food. And kung pwede, collect them and then we give them to people in need.
All right, so let me just formally introduce all of our panelists today one by one. So starting with Tan from Vietnam. She is the co-founder of the Da Nang Zero Waste Community Project. The project hopes to raise awareness of the importance of reducing waste. And with 1,500 members, has composed around 10 tons of organic waste in 2022 alone. And from that second video, introducing Mac Florendo, and he's definitely a man of many talents, friends from the Philippines over here. We might know him as Mr. Magic, but he is also the founder of Food Rescue Philippines. And there is one more panelist who did not have a video that was showcased to you guys just now, but introducing Aluni from Laos. She's the co-founder of Vientiane-based Second Hand World.
I would just like to say a word or two of welcome as well from my end, Aluni, Mag, and Tan. It's a real pleasure to reconnect with you, albeit virtually. But I'm very glad that you made it. And the last time we saw each other, I remember all of us saying that this is merely the beginning, and I'm glad to see that our interaction continues. So welcome back.
So, Aluni, since you did not have a video to put up, maybe do you want to tell everybody about your project?
Yeah, sure. Thanks, Inda. So Secondhand World, when you listen to the name Secondhand, you probably can guess what it's all about. But let me take you back to late 2020, I guess, which was like just in the midst of COVID-19, where everyone's struggling to buy new products and things, but there's some people who still don't actually need what they have. So we found an opportunity to, move or rearrange those items to people who really need it in the rural community. So in a way, we're connecting people with used items and acting as a center where people can, have the used items being handled over to communities who actually need them.
Thanks very much, Aluni, for that kind introduction. I think it's a very meaningful and fascinating project. And while talking about meaningful and fascinating projects, Mac, could you perhaps say a word or two or three about what you have been doing?
Oh, yes. Great day, everyone. So my name is Mac from Food Rescue Philippines and Scholars of Sustenance Philippines. Okay, I just want to share before I talk about my project. So a few hours ago, I collapsed due to heat fatigue and dehydration, but I'm spending time now with you guys because we all have a message to share. All right, so going back, I'm the founder of Food Rescue Philippines and Food Rescue Supervisor of SOS Philippines. We work with different food establishments with surplus food, high quality surplus food, and then we share them to people who would most likely need it. So far, we've already rescued 650,000 kilos of, we've served 650,000 meals for Filipinos in need, and we're targeting 1.5 meals this year, and which is very doable and very positive because we're hitting too many birds with just one stone. And I'm happy to be here, you guys, and I'm excited to hear all the stories and the messages for this afternoon session.
All right, and last but not least, Tan, go ahead. Tell us more about the Da Nang Zero Waste Community Project.
Hello, everyone. It's my great honor to be here with you today. And my project is kind of smaller and a little bit newer than Aluni and Mark's, but I'm thinking that we are all doing our best for our community, our cities, and in our best capability. So I am a new resident of Da Nang. I moved to Da Nang in 2020 because it's the most livable city in Vietnam. And I was really shocked finding out that every day 1,100 tons of domestic waste are sent to the landfills. And the urgent problem is not addressed or taken care of yet. I love the city so much. I did not become as bad as the other big cities in Vietnam. So I started the Da Nang Zero Waste Community Project with the hope I would be able to get more people involved and inspire them to practice zero waste lifestyle. So together we can reduce the amount of daily landfill waste. So far, we formed the 1,500 member community, and we would like to reach 3,000 members this year. And we believe that is also doable because Da Nang people love the city. They just need someone to work with them, to provide them with guidance, assistance, and knowledge sharing. And I'm really proud of my community. Thank you for listening.
No, and thank you to the three of you for sharing about all of that. So I've gathered all three of you were part of the Urban Heroes ASEAN, and I believe you three have met with Lucas on your visit here to Jakarta. So how about y'all tell us more about the Urban Heroes Initiative? Like, what is that? And how did y'all get involved? And what do you guys do? Anyone can start first, I suppose. Aluni, do you want to start first?
Yeah. Okay, I'll just start first. So Urban Heroes is, I would say, I define it as a group of ASEAN community leaders who are really passionate and committed to improving their urban communities through social campaigns. And they, especially for our project, we're focusing on two related topics, which is food waste and plastic waste. I mean, people who are listening here can also become urban heroes because it's such a general term. I mean, what Tan and Mac is doing, they're also heroes of their urban cities. So I guess that's how I define urban heroes.
And what about you, Mac?
Yep. All right. So for Urban Heroes, it's us, Southeast Asian leaders coming together, sharing our stories and talk about solutions, possible solutions. And more than that, we are here to create more heroes, to inspire younger people to create something, to do something, not just for the environment or the current environment, but for the future generations and their environment as well.
What about you, Tan?
Oh, so I'm gonna give you a little bit different definition. Mark, Aloni, me, and the other members, we were delegates invited to participate in EU-ASEAN Youth Exchange on Sustainable Urban Development in Bangkok on 31st March and the 1st April. We were sharing their knowledge and experiences with experts. We had panel discussion, and we try to explore ways to amplify the role of youth in supporting sustainable development of the cities. Then when we were there, we came up with different ideas, and Urban Heroes is one of the output of the conference. The campaign highlights the youth-led movements in zero waste across ASEAN, and its goal is to become an umbrella campaign to leverage best practices that's been done by youth across South Asia into a regional campaign. So as I mentioned in my video, as single individuals and organizations, we feel very lonely and frustrated. We think that we are not heard, and we need to come together, and we want to inspire the others out there that we are not alone, we are not different, because even in EU or in ASEAN, we have to deal with climate change impacts, and mostly the big causes for rapidly urbanization with our sustainability concept. So me, Aloni, Mark are just the representative of the campaign. We have the other members working wholeheartedly so that we can come up with a strategy, like even when we have the videos, how should it be laid out, and we have the toolkit which will be provided to youth members. You know, it's really a strong commitment, and we will really hope to have more of the youth members here to join us.
All right, thank you guys so much for sharing. So now, Lucas, I'm talking to you, Mr. Charged Affairs. Urban development, right? And mind you, I am somebody who does not come from like an econ background or, you know, any of that. Like I know little to nothing about the topic of urban development, to be quite frank, but it is an interesting issue. And what little I do know about it is there's a lot of contention with the topic of urban development, right? And it can get quite controversial as well. Because on the one hand, urban development and the things that usually come along with urban development, right? Like I'm talking maybe like a very hot button topic that a lot of people would be more familiar with is like gentrification, right? Kind of falls under that umbrella, you know, but urban development as a whole, you know, on the one hand, it signals economic growth, right? But, you know, on the other hand, it puts a lot of pressure on the city and its residents, and also, you know, the cultural ramifications that can sometimes occur, right? So, Lucas, I'm asking you, like, what do you think is the cost of, no, sorry, not what you think is the cost of, but like, what do you think, how do we strike the balance between, yes, like gauging economic development, but also being able to still honor a lot of, you know, culture, and preserving a lot of culture, and yeah, all of that stuff. I'm not being very eloquent right now. I'm so sorry. Again, I am not familiar with this topic, but yeah, how do we gauge economic progress, but also still, I guess, please everybody?
Yeah, thanks. Well, I guess this is the ultimate question, isn't it? And somehow I don't want to be too alarmist or bombastic for that matter, but I think answering this question, it's something that we as mankind really need to do, and you know, as soon as possible. Looking around, I think all of you are aware of what's been happening worldwide, especially this year. Climate change has become undeniable. You know, its effects are really being felt. You look at forest fires in Greece, you look at what's happening in Canada, you look at the heat wave which struck South Asia, Southeast Asia earlier this year, etc., etc. Unfortunately, all of this is unfolding and it's happening in real time. So I think we know what the symptoms are, but I mean, how do we cure the disease? And as you said, neither am I an expert on these matters. You know, someone once said, "Oh, a good diplomat knows something about everything and everything about something." Now, I'm not sure whether I fall into this category, but let me just look at it perhaps from a bird's eye view. Like when I think about these questions, sometimes it feels like you have a triangle, right? So you have 3 points. One point is economic growth. The other point is social equity. And the third point is environmental preservation. And somehow, sometimes there's this impression that you can only have 2 out of these 3 points. You cannot have everything at once. You cannot have economic growth in urban areas which delivers on both social equity and preserves the environment, or you cannot have social equity and environmental preservation and at the same time economic growth. But I think this is a false dichotomy. You know, I think we really have to look into how we can address these issues. And I think this is something I discussed with Tan, Aluni, and Mac when they were here in Jakarta, and with all the other urban heroes. We really need to look into ways how to change this whole system. You know, there are initiatives which come from governments or local authorities, mayors, etc., which are top bottom. So someone comes up with a policy, implements or imposes the policy and hopes that things will change somehow. But at the same time, I think, and these urban heroes who are here with us are a great example of it, you can also have initiatives which are grassroots, they go bottom up. They cannot address all the different problems, but they just focus on one particular problem within one particular area and within one particular, geographical location. And I think it's just amazing the extent to which people such as Tan, Aluni, and Mac were able to find an issue and also find a solution, embrace it, and make something really meaningful out of it. So I think ultimately what it comes down to, and I'll refer to urban heroes once again, for us, we want to create platforms which connect the bottom-up approaches with those which are top-bottom. So I think this, for me, is at the heart of urban heroes, to enable Southeast Asian youths who have some concrete initiatives, concrete projects, concrete ideas, which try to connect all 3 points of this triangle and try to make it work. I think it was Tan who earlier mentioned words such as guidance, assistance, knowledge sharing, but also not being heard. So I think if we create a platform, it's a great way for us to listen to you, but also for you to enrich one another. And I think this is the way to really tackle complex issues. Perhaps the most complex one being, indeed, as you mentioned, striking a balance in urban development, making sure that it's sustainable economically, socially, but also environmentally. So that's a very long-winded way of answering your question, but hey, you asked the diplomat to answer a difficult question, and this is what you get in return.
Right, and a very diplomatic answer indeed. And yes, you are right that our speakers here today, they are a living example of what the youth can do in gauging progress in the movement of sustainable urban development, right? And Dion, like in the chat box, she's sharing about how Dion's from Jakarta. I'm also, for people wondering, I'm also like based here in Jakarta. And as the capital city of Indonesia, the city has very high urbanization rates and it's very dense. And definitely, I don't know, people that are tuning in and y'all are from Jakarta, y'all would know this, that we have been a really big issue that we've been dealing with is the really high rates of pollution. The air quality here is just, it's not great. So I want to ask the speakers now, our panelists, what environmental challenges, or I guess challenges in general, like that your cities are facing, and how you believe that your efforts can contribute to the solution, and what kind of policies would be needed to address those challenges. Anybody can start first, whoever is ready. Aluni, would you like to start?
Yeah, so in terms of talking about issues and problems in my city, I am not speaking on behalf of everyone, but I feel like in each city, there's this common problem that we have together, whether it's on air pollution, because we all know that urbanization is, gradually growing, especially in ASEAN cities, with the economic growth. Also, we have climate issues. I mean, for me, it's more of like a global issue. It's a region issue more than just like my city. But if you're asking about Laos, I would say waste is one thing that I feel personally passionate about, because I feel like it's something that we can do, despite Laos being having the lowest rate of producing waste. I still feel like we need to step up and do more in terms of practically having everyone involved and not placing the responsibilities on youth initiatives or just, people. I mean, in your everyday life, you can start by not littering. Just a small example of how other people can help your city, along with growing and having the economic growth in a stable situation. And other problems that I find that is really serious, and we've faced it at the beginning of this year, was air pollution. We were having a lot of cut and burns from the northern area, and it's affecting a lot of people in the urban cities. We started, questioning if every house should have an air purifier, which it wasn't serious at first because I was traveling here and there and I feel like, okay, it's not that bad. But seeing people around me, I mean, one of my colleagues actually got his nose bleeded because of the seriousness of the air pollution. So I was like, I don't think this is something that we should keep going on. I mean, it might be, it lasted for like a week, 2 weeks, gradually going lower on the third week, but I feel like I don't ever want to see that picture again. So I guess these problems are very common in a lot of cities in ASEAN.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, no, do not underestimate how bad it can get with really bad air pollution. A lot of my friends actually are in the hospital right now with like some form of respiratory disease. So yeah, no, it's bad. It's bad. And does anybody else, like the other panelists, like, do you guys have anything that y'all want to share?
Yep, I could share as well. Well, there's a lot of problems going on in the country, but yeah, air pollution is mentioned, plastic pollution, marine pollution. It's just that, in the Philippines, it's not many are very engaged with the various campaigns, although organizations are there, campaigns are there, but it's really, it's really political. I would say we really have to choose leaders, because as developing countries, we really depend on leaders. Like whatever is the rules, we follow. But if we don't see it in a political level, it's a big problem. It's just that I would say we're very lucky for people attending this session, everybody engaged in EU-ASEAN activities, that we become more aware. The reason also as well that I'm lucky doing food rescue is because it's the most visual thing that you could do in terms of campaigning. When you say food, wasted food, that everybody eats food. Everybody, like whoever you are, like whatever age, whatever class. And if you give it to someone, it is natural. It's natural instinct of sharing something, what you have. And then once you consume food, everybody consumes food. Everybody knows the feeling of food. Everybody knows how to feel hungry. And I'm channeling all those like campaigns, energy through that campaign. And hopefully that we could also address other problems such as plastic waste, marine waste, marine pollution, air pollution. And yeah, that's why we're very lucky coming together, especially for urban heroes. It's really the young people who can bring energy that is hopeful, energetic, and yeah, it's creative, collaborative, and that's the advantage of ASEAN countries coming together. Really, the population is young people coming together, so we must have this energy always in the room, just so we become more positive of what's gonna happen next.
Right. Yeah. I mean, the thing with food, essentially, it's like when it comes to food, there's less of a degree of separation, right? Because like you said, everybody eats food. And even if, yeah, sure, not everybody comes from the type of background where they know what it feels like to go hungry, but it's a very inherent thing that everybody, regardless of social class and, wherever you're from, like, that everybody deserves the right to be able to eat. Right. Whereas and that is the nice thing about you doing food, right? People can, it's more relatable, to put it across. It's more relatable to a lot of people. Whereas, with things like, and I mean, like Tan, I guess this is where you come in, right? When it's things that have to do with waste, like, litter everywhere. and that has a larger degree of separation, at least in my opinion. And so it's just a lot harder for people to relate, because people that come from higher social economic backgrounds, for example, it's like, they probably have a bit of a mindset of like, I mean, the heck I care, because it doesn't impact me directly. And it's never been something that I've ever really had to dealt with. It's never been something that has been, within my environment, that type of an attitude. What do you think, Tan?
So first of all, I would like to share about the issues facing my city. I'm a little bit luckier than the others. I'm living in the most livable city in Vietnam, so air pollution barely exists. Unfortunately, I keep telling people ironically, because in the most livable city, people are so chill. They don't know, or they kind of decide to ignore the environmental issues that have existed. But not so many people wanted to take action. So Da Nang City has only 1.1 million people. It's not the big population, right? But even 3 years ago, the research showed that 1,100 tons of unseparated domestic waste are sent to the landfill on the daily basis. And I may shock everybody a little bit. Vietnam is among the top 5 plastic polluters of the world's oceans. And an average Vietnamese person would produce 37 kilograms of plastic waste per year. Is the number stunning? And Aloni and Mark mentioned earlier that we are all from developing countries. People care about growing rich, being famous, social status, but what about the other values? Can we really eat money? And can we have so much commercial stuff and stay in the hospital at the same time? And for me, I see the problems that the young people, youth in general, they are the presence, they are the future, as Lucas mentioned, right? But do they really care? Do they really listen? Because they are up to date, to whatever happening right now. The older generations, they may be low tech and they have so much to worry, but the youth, right? They have the time, they have the energy, and are they willing to take the action and tackle it? Yeah. So in Da Nang, what I'm doing with my project is different from Mark, that he specifically focused on food waste. But for me, it's about raising awareness for people about the waste issues in general and providing the knowledge, what we can do on a family basis, individual basis. And the key is everybody has to be responsible for his own waste. I used my dinosaur in the introductory video because I want people to listen to me. Nobody can tell which animal is that, a dinosaur, a giraffe, or a cow. And I told them climate changes have caused mutation in plants and animal species. And the waste issues are responsible for climate changes. And if we do not take action, one day a mutated animal like this will truly appear in our life, And and the other members are willing to give them the solutions, the knowledge. We are always on their side to support them because we don't want to fight alone, but the responsibility is theirs, whether they want to join us or not.
Mm-hmm. And tying to literally your ending question, Nicole Bars so sorry if I'm butchering the last name, but Nicole Bars in the comments asked a question. I feel like this could be a very good discussion topic for all of us here. Is it more of the people's responsibility to solve problems pertaining to sustainable urban development rather than the local government to bridge the gap in the issue? Mr. Charge d'Affaires.
Yeah, thanks. I've been looking at this question for the past 5 or 10 minutes and trying to come up with a clever answer. I think you really hit the nail on its head by asking this question. So, ultimately, who is responsible or who is to act? And there's no way of answering this question correctly, I guess. And that's the beauty of it. That's why it's so good for a discussion. And that's why I'll be asking everyone else to chip in later on. But let me have a go at it myself. So, ultimately, who's causing these issues? Is it the people or is it the local government? That's one way of looking at it. Another way of looking at it, perhaps, is to paraphrase JFK. He said, do not what your country can do for you, but what you can do for your country. So if we substitute the country for city, is that a way of answering the question? Should it be the people who basically roll up their sleeves and do something about any of these issues? But I guess, the truth, as is usually the case, is somewhere in between. I think it's very hard. And this is something that we were, again, discussing here in Jakarta with Mac, with Tan, and with Aluni and other urban heroes. I mean, ultimately, you need both sides to act, because if it's only top to bottom, it's not really going to work, is it? Because it's completely imposed, in this case, by urban authorities on people. But if it's only bottom up or grassroots, I mean, ultimately, and I think all three of you know about this, you'll hit a glass ceiling. There's only so much that you can do, or only so far that you can go without some degree of support from your local community or indeed your local authorities. So perhaps I'm walking around in circles a bit, but I mean, again, this is one of the big questions. How do we go about doing something like, addressing an issue like this? Because it's just so complex, isn't it? I mean, all the issues we've been discussing so far are super complex, and I find it fascinating, but at the same time a bit daunting. But I'm hopeful that, a platform such as this one, being able to discuss these issues with a lot of you who are young, who have a lot of bright ideas, who have concrete experiences, concrete examples, it's perhaps just helps even, to push the barrier or to push the bar ever so slightly. But yeah, I would be interested in what you have to say. As you remarked earlier, yeah, I'm a diplomat, so perhaps I'm just giving answers which are too diplomatic. I just cannot say things which are a bit extreme. But I want to hear from you.
Right, the perspective
of this. Yes.
The perspective of just the average everyday citizen, the social media personality, content creator, knows nothing about econ and like this topic whatsoever. But from my perspective, yeah, no, your answer, it's the boring, unsexy, diplomatic answer. But to be honest, like that is just the truth. Like it's gotta come from everybody. Right? Like you said, like there's very little the average everyday people that we can do without the support of our government. I think where the government needs to step in, definitely, and like I would like to get your opinion on this, Lucas, is, when it comes to these giant multinational corporations who, please correct me if I am wrong. Again, I am not an expert at this topic at all. But last I read, multinational corporations, I'm not going to say which ones, but they're usually like the biggest contributors to a lot of our environmental pollutions, like waste in the oceans, like oil spills and all of that. So I think, when it comes to talking about all these gigantic conglomerates, all these gigantic companies, yeah, that's where the government got to step in. But, when it comes to like the everyday things, like I think Aluni was mentioning about how, start with like the little basic everyday things, like just making the conscious decision to not litter. Right? That's gotta come from a personal initiative, like on like the just general societal level of like people just need to care. And that's just what's so hard these days. I guess this is where I can speak from like my point of view as like, you know, being like an online figure and everything, and, you know, doing social media. It is so hard to get people to care about the things that, you know, they should be caring. They themselves know that they should be caring. But, you know, I'm sorry, it's not the cool, trendy thing to care about. It's not sexy to, you know, go online and, you know, spit facts about how our environment is polluted, how Mother Nature is dying. It's hard to make people care. But I agree, it's an important issue. Maybe to some extent, I'm kind of like, maybe people just need to like be more creative with it. Maybe like find a sexier, more provocative way of like delivering it to get people's attention. But I don't know. This isn't my domain. But yeah, I'm going to invite all the other speakers. Sorry, I'm like rambling a little bit, but I'm going to invite the other speakers. Let me know what y'all think. Start with anybody who's ready. Tan, I saw you.
Yeah, I would like to share my thoughts. So in my country, not only youth members, but a lot of ordinary people think environmental issues should be tackled by the government. You know, they are powerful, they have resources, and we are dealing with daily life pressures. But when I, Mark, Aluni, and the others were at EMF conference, and we listened to the authorities speaking. They care about the issue as well, but they were looking for the contribution, the cooperation of the people, because let's say a city having 1.1 million people like Da Nang have, let's say, you know, like 50 authorities, right? And 50 authorities cannot do all the work for 1.1 million people. Yeah, so I would like to say that we all have to take responsibilities for the issues. So we can, you know, have the platform like the youth conference, or I know that in Jakarta, they have the digital platform that local people can speak up the issues to the authorities, and together they can solve the problem. That is really helpful because first the authorities need to know which problems are there, and then they can propose the solutions, and they double check with the ordinary people. Are you happy with that? Anything we need to improve? Because the willingness to address the problem, to propose the solutions, and to work together to achieve the goals, that's really important. And I'm sure that if someone cares and say, oh, I'm powerless, you know, you need to find people who share the same thinking. You know, just like I found Aluni, Mark, and the others at Urban Heroes. We need to find people having the same interests, and we have to stay together so we empower each other. You know, each one is good at his major, but together we will know more about the others. We come up with their well-rounded solutions, and together we can go further, we can act stronger. Yeah, so that's my thoughts.
Anybody else would like to contribute?
I'll just add my past experience in managing my secondhand world project. So we actually involve a lot of youths. We recruit about 50 to 70 youths every year to come and organize the event with us. And they are from so many backgrounds. But you have to know, like, we have a lot of, I would say, duties for them. We separate them into teams, whether you're interested in art, whether you're interested in doing activities, you want to manage the logistics, you want to do the finance, you want to do media production. We have it all for them. We train them. And in a way, we have one goal, which is to make this event happen. So they know nothing about climate change. Some people don't even care about climate change. They still bring their plastic bottles, they still use their plastic straws. But as long as they're in our community, as long as they're participating with us, you know, those awareness just gets inside them. You grow with them, you grow with those beliefs, because everyone's doing it. And when you're in a community that's really caring about something, you feel like, why am I here? Why am I not caring about this? Okay, let's you know, encourage myself to care like what other people are doing. And I think it's I mean, agreeing with you about having a more creative way to get people to become engaged. So when they feel like it's a part of them, it's really easy just to let them know and have them become pioneers, instead of, you know, us pushing what we care about, just pushing knowledge, just you know, giving and telling them that it's their responsibility to do it. So I guess giving them a platform and also spreading awareness and have them really feel like they're a part of this community makes it easier for us to impact them and have them impact their local communities.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. And I just want to share as well that we just had the first ever Zero Summit in the Philippines. So it's the summit focusing on reducing food waste and reducing hunger in the Philippines. So in that event, we actually invited the four sectors of the society. We invited the government, we invited business people, we invited the academe, and then civil society. We just really need to find the champions or the people who care most in those sectors, bring them together in one event, and have them champions or be the champions in their sector, because I'm pretty sure they have something to say as well. So we were very lucky to join forces with the mayor of Quezon City in Metro Manila. We have the big food companies who joined us. We have the Gokong Way Group. We have Food Panda, and then we have other businesses, even non-food businesses join in. We have the people from the academe, from Ateneo, from UP, and then civil society groups. We have Voice of the Youth and Certified Voice Artist Program coming together. There's very different people coming together just to talk about one thing, to find a solution to whatever is the problem that we see. Because whenever we see a problem, it's not my job to find a solution. It's not your job to find a solution, but it's us finding a solutions to the problems that we see. You don't put the blame to somebody else. So once you see a problem, it becomes our problem to solve. So that's the first ever summit that we did, August 8th, 8/8, and we're gonna do it every year. Get more people to notice it, to be part of it, and I'm pretty sure like there will be impact, because in that summit we also talk about numbers and impact. That's very important, especially for businesses. So yeah, we have to learn each other's language, sync, align, and we just have to hold hands together and walk one step at a time, find solutions one step at a time. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you. Well, this has been fascinating. I've been scribbling some thoughts as you were speaking. And I think one thing which really struck me is perhaps it's two sides of the same coin, ultimately. Finding solutions, as Mac was saying just now, but also the other side of the coin is perhaps taking responsibility. So, you know, who is to take responsibility? Should it be the people? Should it be the local government? Should it be the MNCs, which Inda was alluding to earlier? You know, should it be the academia as well to a certain extent? And ultimately, I think, you know, the different champions have to come together, as Mac just said, because everyone has their share to blame to a certain extent. Yeah, I mean, you could blame people for the litter situation. You could also blame the companies which produce the products which end up littering. You could blame academia for, you know, not spreading enough awareness or educating people sufficiently enough, and then ultimately you could end up blaming your local or even national governments. So yeah, but I really feel like, you know, the time for finger pointing has passed, and we really need to we really need to act. But yeah, it's just fascinating to be in a discussions such as this one. So yeah, thank you for that. But we have more questions. Let me just scroll up to the Q&A feature. I believe that Winona Tapiru has asked me a question, and it's another difficult question, which only shows that the caliber of this discussion is very high indeed. So Winona says that I've mentioned striking the balance in order to achieve sustainable urbanization. And Winona's question is, how can sustainable organization address the loss of cultural diversity in the face of greater urbanization, along with connectivity and economic growth? So yeah, I guess that this is another dimension of the triangle that I was referring to. So unsurprisingly enough, I don't think I have any good answer. So once again, who is responsible for preserving one's cultural heritage? Is it your national government? Is it your local government? Is it your family? Is it you yourself? Is it your educational system? I really don't know. And how do we keep in touch with our culture in a world which is moving so quickly? How do we remain grounded? I think these are some of the big issues. But perhaps again, let me just turn towards Tan, Aluni, and Mac. I'm scratching my head as I speak, or as I'm speaking. Would you have any particular experience to share about how to tackle this particular issue? Because I think it's a relevant point, talking about cultural heritage.
Or I can start first, because this is quite related to what I've been doing. I strongly believe in the saying, there's the will, there's the way. If you really want to do something, you will find a way to do it. So Lucas asked, again, is that so government responsibility, is that your family responsibility, or is that your responsibility? I think everybody should take responsibility for himself first, because who we are with our culture in the world of globalization, if we do not have the distinctive cultures, either Lucas, me, Aloni, Mark, the other members, we will be very much like robots, and I strongly believe that even with AI growth, we will still remain our uniqueness because we have the 1,000 years of history and cultures. So in my opinion, and I'm sure that for a lot of Urban Heroes members, human would be the most important factor in sustainable organization or maintaining sustainability, because we think of sustainability as the state, like where all the factors, environmental, society, and people, and environment and economy are met at the sweet spots. Yeah, and when we think of the whole picture, like how can I achieve the sustainable state without losing the cultural diversity? You will come up with the solutions. So for example, you have seen my dinosaur. This is actually a toy made of used papers. In Vietnam, long ago, paper mask making was a beautiful traditional art because Mid-Autumn Festival was the most beautiful time for children in the year. The ancestors were farmers. They honored the gods for blessing us with the good harvest. Then they created the paper mask to tell stories to their children that human and animals live happily ever after. Then there were characters from fairy tales or from legends to inspire the children that you should learn from them, be the good person, fight for the country, things like that. But the paper mask making art has disappeared, and we cannot compete with the plastic masks from China, very cheap and eye-catching. So I felt really sad that the beautiful art was dying. But paper mask is not practically used in the Vietnamese modern life, right? And then I seek the help from a master. He came up with the paper toys, something like this dinosaur, or you can have all kinds of animals or characters like Spider-Man, X-Men. You just need to use the used papers, like something you already wrote the information on it, or you have used newspapers. Then you use glue and carton boxes to make the shape, and you can make those beautiful decorative items to decorate your office and your house. Yeah, and then with our workshop, we could target 100 people, families, children, kindergartens. I mean, people are curious. Oh, what is this? And can we really make something from waste? And once they were attending the workshop, I and the others could tell them about the waste issues. And what we can do is practicing zero waste lifestyle, including reusing, reducing, and recycling. Yeah. So I hope that my sharing can inspire the others to come up with their own solution.
I'll share a bit about what's happening in Laos. So we have this, so in terms of the cultural heritage, we have this festival every year. It's called the Tat Long Festival, where everyone comes to this huge place, and we have commercial booths, we have youth initiatives, we have a lot of things happening in one setting, in one area, happening for a week or so. And after that event, I think you can probably guess, like any other events, there's garbage everywhere. So if we're comparing my example to Tan's example, we're not losing anything. It's just that the cultural site is damaged. We're not seeing a very beautiful picture after, we were all saying we're doing great things. We're all promoting ourselves during that area, during that festival. But then when everything's gone, no one's there anymore, it's all dirty again. And I personally feel like it's been a challenge, because this festival has been, living longer than I am. And why is it still, an ongoing process? And it's probably still going to be like that as long as people are still being really careless about, just taking trash. Which I feel like when we call the festival, when we call those heritage ours, why is it when there's damage or something is destroyed, we tend to forget that it's something that we used to call ours? So I think if people are very mindful about that, it could help. Also, when with speaking of crafts or cultural talents, I agree with Tan that mass production is actually really increasing the rates of people keeping or trying to do it because they can't make a living out of it. But I think one of the problems or something we can do is to let consumers know where those new products are coming from. Say, example, if it's from China, that's not local economic growth. That's someone else's economic growth. And if people know that, they would be able to have the power of purchasing, right? So they can choose wisely where they want to invest or where they want to help. So if I think it's more of communicating, especially if we use what we have social media, if we can communicate with people and help them become aware, I think it helps a lot.
And I want to read out a comment from Michelle Margaret Zuniga, which is actually really funny because we were having a conversation about all this. This is literally what I was thinking to myself about. We can incorporate concepts from indigenous groups in our initiative to sustainable development. Like in the Philippines, Aita Mag-Anse, I'm so sorry if I butchered that, but in Tarlac has the concept of, Kasighawan, or their version of utopia, which environment and humans go along together. This can be used as an indicator of their development. Actually, yeah, Mac, you were like, oh, maybe you could like tell us more about that, especially because like you're from the Philippines, you probably know about that more.
Well, I don't know much about it, but I just reacted. I just helped you out with the pronunciation. But yeah, just to answer the question regarding culture preservation, in what I do or what we do at Scholars of Sustenance or Food Rescue Philippines, it's very simple. We have our food, and all the food that we create out of donated food or rescued food, we make use of recipes that's familiar to the communities. So last weekend, we just did pochero and menudo, which is Filipino stew, but Spanish with Spanish origin. So we make use of the available corned beef and then available vegetables, of course, with tomato sauce and onions. The food that we serve is familiar to the people. And once we have this food, that's when we start talking about other stuff. In the Philippines, food and singing is the main ingredient of people coming together. So there's always karaoke involved and people, and that's the culture we want to preserve. People coming together, sharing stories. And yeah, last weekend as well, we just had the Globe. It's a company, network company, and they shared some skills on digital literacy. So anything can come off, like any idea can come off from having food. That's what we start off our day, right? So we have food and then we have the energy to do whatever we want. Yeah, in terms of culture preservation, it's really that, like, for us, it's really food. It starts with food. What food are we having today? And then what can we talk about later on? Let's talk about ourselves. Let's talk about what happened today, what happened in school, at work. And then, yeah, we're very excited to have this culture, this concept to other parts of the Philippines, the regions, even the ASEAN regions, of people really coming together. And then we talk about culture that we really want to preserve and cultivate.
All right, thank you for sharing that, Mac. And let's move on to our next, portion of the discussion. So, as part of the Urban Heroes Initiative, you've had the opportunity to participate in the ASEAN Mayors Forum. Can you tell us what that's like after we go through the responses that people have submitted? Lucas, you want to help me chime in on this one?
I see there are many, right? There are 50 responses, so it's a bit difficult to group them together. But I think, looking at them, they all seem familiar in one way or another. Be it air pollution, be it waste management, be it forest fires, be it traffic jams. I see, floods, waste management, water pollution, urban sprawl, etc., etc. I guess that all of us have experienced these in one way or another at some point in our lives. There's a lot of recurring ones I see as you're scrolling through.
Yep. Air pollution, traffic jam, Surabaya. Yep, all the Indonesians here. I saw recycling food waste just now. Flooding for sure. Definitely in Indonesia, we have that problem just because, and that's more of like, I think with flooding for Jakarta specifically, that's more of like a trash problem too, just because we have so much trash and people here, like they have the tendency of like littering, so it like clogs up all of the sewage systems, and then yeah, next thing you know, we're like waist deep in water. So is there anything here that stands out? That urban sprawl. Okay, I saw urban sprawl. I don't know if what is it, like urban segregation? What's the term? I'm really not playing in my field right now. What's the term where it's like, it's really like you see the dichotomy between like a rich neighborhood and then like right in front of it is like the slums. What is that called again, Lucas? I'm so sure.
I did a geography A level back in my younger days, but I cannot recall this term either. But I mean, inequality, right? I mean, you can call it what it is. Let's call it spade a spade. It's inequality. But I think that the two which kept being mentioned over and over again are pollution and traffic. But also there was a little mention of waste or waste management. I guess that's the unholy trinity, which all of us are experiencing in one way or another. So perhaps the most pressing ones.
It's not about jobs as well. I mean, youth unemployment is booming right now in Laos as well, especially with the inflation rate here.
Oh yeah.
It's not about jobs.
I would say even worldwide. I mean, even in my own country, I saw the statistics the other day, 18.8%. In my country, I would say that's rather high. Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, no, I would say that's more of a worldwide thing here in Indo, definitely. And I think COVID played a part in exacerbating all of that for everybody. So yeah. Garbage management. Sorry, I'm reading out a comment here that was directed at me and Lucas. Garbage management, urban planning, drainage system. Yeah, I think this is, sorry, I think that was pointing out to some of the answers that people were mentioning, that people submitted at the Metrometer. So I guess let's move on with the conversation. Like I said, part of the, Urban Heroes initiative, right? And you had the opportunity to participate in the ASEAN Mayors Forum. So, any one of you, whoever's ready to just speak, like tell us what that's like.
I'll start first since I have my mic on already. Sorry, Mac. I just saw your mic open a bit. I met a lot of people from a lot of countries, I guess, especially in ASEAN, and I can see the differences between my country's authorities and other people's countries' authorities, and I feel like it's a good chance that to connect youths with people who we don't see every day. I don't know how it is with your countries, but for me to meet my mayor is very rare. You don't, drive and see his car next to me as a normal thing. You don't go to events and, go up and say hi very easily. So I would say it's a golden opportunity for me as well to showcase what I'm doing as a youth, especially when it's the mayor of your city, whether it's the mayor of other cities that we think we can also work on. It's a great opportunity for us to let people know, not just for mayors from our country, but also mayors from other cities in other countries. And I can say that I think it's the first time also that they had youth delegates, and we were pretty much the stars, I guess. So when there's no voices from the crowds, it'll be like, how about youth participants? What do you think? And we'll be like, yes, it's my turn. It's my time to shine and speak what I think about who I'm representing. But one thing I'm really impressed about the forum is that a lot of mayors actually agree, and they have, this open-minded. They have this open-minded kind of vibe where we, tend to express what our project is about, and they agreed upon a lot of points that youth should be empowered more and engaged more in local authorities events. And we were also talking about SDG localization as well, especially that's the room that I was based in. And a lot of people were, going back and forth on how we could localize SDGs, because it's, when talking about SDGs, it's a top-down approach, right? But I was explaining how it's different that we in Laos, we do it as a bottom-up approach. We don't do the top-down. So yeah, it was interesting to exchange the views and seeing how the government too wants youth to step up as well. And they want us to be sure and be satisfied that we are empowered and seen more than we think. So I guess it's a good time to tell other people that, people are giving you chances. So what's stopping you? Just start now.
Yeah. During our time at the AMF, it really was an opportunity. It was an opportunity to listen, and also it was also an opportunity to say something, to share. I was very glad that most of the mayors that attended the AMF from the Philippines are actually young people, or people who have engaged in the political level in a very young age. So I was very hopeful. They were hopeful. And then I also got the chance to speak with them, to interview them, ask them some questions. And they were really sharing about ideas regarding engagement in the ASEAN region. As Nini was mentioning, maybe not many young people in their area is very engaged in activities like this. So perhaps they could learn from how we do it in the Philippines. Like, we're very lively, energetic, and we're also finding ways and opportunities on how we can bring that to an ASEAN level. And we really have to own projects or campaigns in an ASEAN level. Like, it's not just the Philippines doing this or Lao doing that. But yeah, it was really an opportunity of listening and speaking for those 2 days.
For me, it was a kind of wide eye-opening experience. To be honest, before coming to AMF, I was a little bit worried about the Urban Heroes goals at the AMF. That we wanted to speak up, right? We wanted the mayors to know about what we are doing and gain their support for Urban Heroes. I could not hold my breath when I conducted the interviews with several important mayors. I was really shaking. But to be honest, their answers reassured me and the other members of Urban Heroes. They all appreciated what we were doing, and they highlighted the importance of engaging the youth in policy making and bridging the gap. Because usually we think of generation gap, right? The mayors and people working with them are at their 40-something, and the youth are considered younger. Then we do not speak the same language. But when we truly listened to them, they told us that they were doing wholeheartedly, talking to people and engaging technologies improvements. I mean, when you were there in that atmosphere and seeing people are all coming up with solutions with maintaining sustainability and working together, it's a very special event. And I think that everybody here should stay tuned and see our upcoming videos on Urban Heroes Insta, because you will see the outcomes of our interviews.
Thank you. I think all of these answers have been a nice segue, and perhaps you've also answered actually a question by an anonymous attendee who's been asking about, if the local government, what the local government can do about urban development, making people more empowered. What can local governments do to contribute to empowering the youth, I guess, on their way towards sustainable development? And I think you just gave a very good concrete example. And I mean, in an ideal world, I think this should really be the case. So as I said earlier, top bottom and bottom up approaches meeting somewhere. I guess that one does not really need to travel all the way to Jakarta to make it happen, but sometimes, very paradoxically, it is the easiest way of doing it. You have urban heroes who are suddenly given a chance to be present at this particular meeting, which brings together ASEAN mayors, and then all of a sudden you have the two worlds. Well, colliding is perhaps not the best term, but just meeting and interacting, because ultimately both sides need to speak to one another. And I think I liked what Aluni said earlier about SDGs. I mean, SDGs are a great example. This is a top-bottom approach. This is something that all of our countries have signed up for. All of us are aspiring to delivering on these, on these 30 very, very concrete goals. So it is top bottom, but at the same time, it really should be bottom up, because it is in everyone's interest. It is in the individual people's interest to have, better environment, more sustainable social development, healthcare, etc., etc. So I would say that we've already answered your question, anonymous attendee. But if not, feel free to ask again or ask some more.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Should we do perhaps one more question from?
Yeah.
What do you suggest?
There's one from Gianna De Celis. And they asked, having the effects of various movements to maintain sustainability and environmental development, would there be any possible measures, policies, and efforts for urbanization that would not endanger cultural communities and the indigenous people? I am definitely not qualified to answer any of that. And so it has to be one of you panelists. It has to be. So anyone.
I agree. I don't really feel qualified to answer this one either. So let's see what urban heroes have to say.
I'm sorry, I was lost with the question. Could you kind of repeat the question again?
For sure. Having the effects of various movement to maintain sustainability and environmental development, would there be any possible measures, policies, and efforts for urbanization that would not endanger cultural communities and the indigenous people? I mean, I feel like this is what we've been like, that we were talking about earlier, of like walking the fine line between like, yeah, how do you gauge economic progress, but also still respecting cultural boundaries, respecting the environment, like still honoring the intrinsic things in life, that makes up the human experience, such as culture, environment, nature, right? But then, I mean, hey, we live in, most of us, we live in capitalistic societies, and it's all about the money. So it's like, yeah, what do you guys think?
I don't have like a direct answer to the question, but I'm gonna tell you what I think about it's urbanization versus economic growth. So in some aspects, it seems like it's going contrasting. So if you want to do cultural, then some people tend to think that economic growth is it has to stay where it is. But to me, because I am a very people-centered person, I've always believed that in the influence of the people to that city, within that city. So if people there are living their life at best, having good health, good services, good welfare, education, a stable economic trend, all in all, they are provided with good living standards. I think that the city will likely to be developed faster. So if you ask me, sustainable development is the key to actually keeping the economic growth stable. So we're not jumping from, low development and then jumping to high development and then having to lose some living standards behind. Because I think sustainable development is where you can keep your living standards stable, predictable, and it's more of a long-term thing. You don't just, you don't just want your city to urbanize in like a month, a week. It's got to be a long process where everyone gradually understands and, as Lucas mentioned, to meet somewhere in the middle so we can go together. You can't have someone running and then someone's like really small. If it's like playing a game of running and holding hands with someone. If you're running with someone who's just learning to walk, they're going to trip and you'll just be on your own. But if you're holding someone's hand that's about your age, having the same level of view, having the same pace, then it's going to go longer and it's going to be strong. The development is stronger. Yeah. So just to summarize that, I think it goes together.
That's an interesting point. The fact that sustainability, number one, sustainability isn't just about environmental sustainability. I think that's what most people tend to think of, but it's also the sustainability of like the resources that goes towards gauging economic progress and how, sustainability and I guess capitalism, like economic progress, like they're not antithetical to one another in the way that people, I guess, have the misconception of. That's interesting.
Another example I can take is what if you have a business you want to grow, but you're just growing your business, you don't care about the people. One day, your workers are going to age, and who's going to work for you? It's the young people. And if you don't invest in them, I don't think your business is going to go anywhere. So that's why I think it's really intertwined and they have to go together. You can't just have, you can't see them as something that's going contrast every time.
Mac, Tan, do you have anything to say about that?
In my opinion, I would like to say that again, it starts with people. So let's say when we think of urbanization process, we should think of all people in the place where urbanization is taking place or going to take place. And then the people would include cultural communities and indigenous people. And when we sit together, we will address the current stage of the threats will happen if rapidly urbanization is conducted without precautions. And I would say that we all know sustainability is not only about protecting the environment, right? Because a lot of people will not be able to live there anymore. They have to go somewhere, find jobs, and that's not sustainable, right? And in Vietnam, we have came up with a lot of good solutions. I would like to give, for example, we've developed community-based tourism, or we've got we call secondary forestation. So first, community-based tourism have been around here for 20 years. So at first, there were NGO or international organizations funded projects in cultural communities, indigenous people places. These places were really far away, like you did not have the access to clean water or electricity, healthcare, and the projects first came to support the local people, but they needed the jobs, right, to create the income. And when they could be the suppliers, they would become the homestay owners or the local tour guide, or they provide the services for visitors. Yeah, then they can contribute to the development of their place, to make it become more accessible than before, but still preserve the culture. And because the people, they live there, they are the spirit of the whole experience. Or when I mentioned the we call secondary forestation, which means people living near the nature reserve, they live in the buffer zone. Yeah, they have been encouraged to grow timber sustainably. The 5-year or 10-year timbers that can be harvested and sold for paper mill, and they have the income, but they don't have to destroy the primary forest. Yeah, so in my opinion, it's really about the discussion, the preparation, the planning. If we do such thing really carefully, and we always check to see if this type of urbanization meet with the mentioned criteria or anything we need to fix, then we won't have to worry about losing the cultural communities or affecting indigenous people, because I think we can refer it to inclusive economy.
Yeah, and just to like echo what Han has mentioned, it really boils down to dialogue. We really need to build strong partnerships, really listen to the voices of the indigenous leaders. And of course, we have to make sure that decisions are made collectively, just to keep that balance of developing, urbanization, sustainability, and cultural preservation.
All right, thank you. Yeah, fascinating answers. What a fascinating discussion. Now, I know that we're reaching the end of our allocated time, so now it's time for a quiz on Kahoot with some interesting prizes. So yeah, let's do that. Can you please connect? The link has been shared, I believe.
Very cute PG-13 names here. Very different from what I'm used to seeing on my end of like live streams. Okay, so first question. Food Rescue Philippines gathers surplus edible food from businesses and delivers it to communities in need using bicycle. Yep, that one is true. Lucas, you wanna read the next one?
Yeah, let me have a go. But my screen is very pixelated. But let me see. How many members of the Danang Zero Waste Project reduced waste and compensated 10 tons of organic matter in 2022? Oh, I know the answer.
Yeah. I mean, no, we do. Let's see, we got it in this house. There you go. 1,500.
Same color as my background, by the way.
Okay, legendary.
I gave you a hint.
Secondhand World is a marketplace addressing waste through secondhand items, donations, and exchanges. Okay, answers are 4 and AM. And the answer is true. True. Okay, Legend Bear, pop off.
All right, I can see clearly now. So in 2020, urbanization in the ASEAN region surpassed the halfway mark with a projection of a 55.6% increase in 2030. Is that correct or false?
Okay, it's true. Again, Legend Bear. How many EU member states are there? I mean, Lucas definitely knows this one, right?
I feel like everyone should know, but we'll see in 14 seconds. No pressure.
Very bold of you to say you think everybody should know. That's definitely not common knowledge. I'm gonna guess 26. I'm gonna guess 28. 27? 27 or 28? How many official languages does the EU have? Oh, if there's
okay. No, that's
if there was wait. If there was 20, so was there 27 or 28? Because if there were
27 member states.
27. So okay. Languages.
But please don't post the answers in the chat. It's not how it's supposed to be done.
Oh, 24. Okay, well.
It wasn't even the correct answer.
Wait, what? 24 wasn't the correct answer?
No. Someone posted in the group chat.
Okay. How many golden stars make up the circle? Wait, no, this I feel like.
Yeah, how many golden stars make up the circle in the European Union flag? Wait, I have one behind me, but you cannot see it.
Well. Yeah. Guys, it's 12. Legend Bear still on top. In 2022,
well
you introduced a strategic partnership with young people in the EU's external action. What is it called? I'm gonna guess it's red. Yes, I have memory of Lucas mentioning it. So yes, the youth action plan, I was correct. Is it still Legend Bear? Oh, Legend Bear. Look at you go. Next one. 2023 is the European Year of Skills. I feel like the nicest answer would be yes. right? Yeah. See? Of course it's yes. Is it
All
still
right.
legend?
Well done. Nice.
Legend Bear
One
on
more
top.
question to go, right? One last
Yep,
chance for
one more,
Legend
yep.
Bear to stumble.
Last one, Legend Bear. Don't screw this one up. When the Europe Day is celebrated. When is the Europe
No
Day?
hints, please. No hints. Let's leave this.
Oh, I'm Asian. I don't know this. There's Europe Day?
All right. There's ASEAN Day as well.
That one okay, that one I
Do
know
you?
too. That one I know, but Europe Day I've never heard of.
Oh, but 31 people have.
Oh,
Wow,
that's
okay.
third. Second, I mean, Legend Bear. Legend Bear. There you go. Congratulations, Legend Bear. You are indeed a legend for winning first place. Ooh, okay. And do we still have, okay, yeah, Aluni is still here. Tan is still here as well, right? Because Mac had to leave. He has other engagements, but yeah. Besides, I guess moving on, and yeah, thanks to everybody for engaging with the Kahoot. I hope everybody had fun with that one. So let's move on with the next discussion. Ooh, sorry, I'm distracted by the chat going on the side right now as well. But are we? Lucas.
I think we're reaching the end, so it's time for final words, right? Closing statements.
Closing statements.
So would Tan or Aluni like to go first? I think you decide. I don't want to choose.
Any one of you two ready to give a closing statement?
Sorry, what's the closing statement about?
Like
I just needed to
parting
be
words,
specific.
like your
guess-
goodbye, or you can summarize, or you can leave us with an inspirational point, or just like it's your last chance to speak during this event, more or less.
Sounds promising. Overall, I'm just happy that I'm seeing a lot of people participating in the discussion. Some of the events, they're just like shy to open up, to ask questions. They keep it with themselves, and I think having a lot of youth, seeing a lot of people coming in and really caring about the cities, is like how we place our topics and about sustainability is something to really look forward to. I mean, imagine having 120 over people starting their projects right now, tomorrow, and then coming up to the EU and say, please fund my project or something. Amazing how, think about how amazing that would be. I mean, coming from respective cities as well. So yeah, I'm just inspired by the participants more than I think the participants would be inspired by us, because we're just lucky to have a chance to showcase what we've done to you guys. I think it's time for your turn to do what we're doing and have your floor to shine on other platforms. So my takeaway for the discussion would be that, but what I'll leave to you guys is I started my project with a fund also, but that fund wasn't enough to sponsor my donation trip. So I found a way to start it and have it to just keep running it until right now I think I have like 20,000 followers. with just 4 projects. I mean, you guys can do a lot more than that, because I think you guys have the resources more than we do. You guys know more than we do, because we started our we started our projects way back than, you know, what you guys have right now in hand. So you have your resources, you know where to go to. The EU is really supportive. So please open up for EU's other project, because I can't say it's like the best program in the whole wide world, but I will ensure you that after you engage with EU's projects, you will really feel the sense of belonging to your community, and you will start to not only inspire yourself and keeping yourself engaged with the community, but you will feel the urge to inspire others to do more, because you yourself know that you can actually do more than this. Thank you.
Talk about uplifting. What about you, Tan?
So I was really surprised that so many youth participated in our talk show. You know, before COVID, the amount of participations were predictable, right? But after COVID, and time is money, like more than 130 participants joined us from the beginning till now. It is very touching. And I want to send my message to the other youth members. My project was funded by EU to Vietnam in 2022. And I actually planned to conduct my project without funding, because it came out from my heart. I told everybody that I was a selfish person. I wanted to live in the most livable city in Vietnam as long as possible. And I also wanted the same thing for my future generation. And that's the reason why I started out the project, to ask people to join me and take action to make the city go zero waste. And it started from my own motivation. And then the opportunity applying for the fund from EU to Vietnam came along, and it was really helpful. And after the fund was over, I've been working on it on my own. So again, I strongly believe that there's the will, there's the way. If you want to do something, and there's the fire of enthusiasm in your heart, then you will definitely come up with the solution. And you please do not think of the project as something, wow, way too big. Thanks project had 1,500 members. Mark project will serve 1.2 million meals. A project can be as simple as asking your family members to separate the waste, and going to school and workplace and telling the others, hey, we need to switch off the light bulbs when no longer used, because it affects our money. Like if you don't pay attention, then you lose the money. Simply it is. Yeah. And it takes time. It's very tiring because people don't usually listen. They are so busy with the other things out there. And some marketers even mention, if we want our message to be heard, we need to say it 9,000 times. Yeah, so when you feel lonely and frustrated, it's necessary to find the others having the same motivations and team up with them, sharing, learning, helping each other. And I think for the youth out there, when you address the issues that your cities are facing, you see that it doesn't matter where we are at. they are pretty the same. And we have listened to the speakers, learning from their experiences, and we have open discussions. So I'm sure that everybody has so much to process later. You know, it's like this talk was planting the seed, and then it's our responsibility to nurture the seed and make it grow to become the healthy tree with the fruits, with the shade later. And I feel just like Aloni, as Urban Heroes representatives, now we hope that the participants here will join us, will become the next urban heroes, and make this campaign great.
Oh, sorry about that. Thank you for that, Tan. Thank you for that, Aluni. Now, okay, last words from Mr. Charge d'Affaires.
Yeah, thank you. I think I'll keep it brief. I really enjoyed this talk. So many thanks to Aluni, many thanks to Mac, many thanks to Tan, and also many thanks to you, Indaji, for facilitating the discussion. Many thanks to all of you for many thought-provoking questions. Before I say my goodbye, let me just name drop a number of EU initiatives which could be of interest to you, such as Erasmus+, such as the EU Youth Dialogue, such as the EU Youth Sounding Board. We have one attached to the European Commission in Brussels, but we'll also be creating one here in Jakarta for our delegation to ASEAN, and another one for our delegation to Indonesia and Brunei. Of course, the Urban Heroes Initiative, about which you already might have heard once or twice during this afternoon's session. And yeah, I think my parting message would be to follow our social media, so you really know about what's happening, you know, all sorts of different initiatives that we're doing. And ultimately, yeah, just to cross my fingers for you and wish you best of luck. I think there are many meaningful initiatives out there. There are also many ways for you to spend your time meaningfully. And I think Aluni, Mac, and Tan are great examples of what I think Tan said earlier, where there's a will, there's a way. So yeah, I just hope that you are as inspired by them as I have been ever since I met them and interacted with them some weeks ago. And yeah, I hope that, you know, this is not the last time we get to interact with each other.
Yeah, no, I just want to reiterate, thank you so much, everybody, for your time. Thank you for all the audience members for your time of day to join and participate in our youth talk show. Take away from me, and especially like this is out of my field of expertise and general knowledge, but one key takeaway that is definitely going to stick with me for a while is actually what Aluni said about the whole how economic progress is not antithetical to sustainability. And when we want to have the conversation about sustainability, it's not just from the perspective of environmental sustainability, which again is like probably the misconception. It's like the stereotype that a lot of people attach onto that word, but really it's the sustainability of, again, resources that goes towards gauging economic progress, and also sustainability in terms of our population, so that we can live. So yeah, that is my biggest takeaway from all of this. Again, thank you so much to everybody for being here, and reiterating what Lucas said, follow at EU in ASEAN on their social media. I believe it's, correct me if I'm wrong, Lucas, it's YouTube, it's X. I hate that I have to call it X now, but it's X.
Everywhere. I think we're everywhere.
Instagram, Facebook. I don't know about TikTok, but yeah. And thank you guys.
No TikTok.
Probably not TikTok. Yeah, no, you don't have to. Don't be on TikTok. But I'm on TikTok. I'm on Instagram. I'm on YouTube. But that's where you guys will find me. My username is It's in the G, as in at It's in the G. And yeah, I think this is where we're gonna part ways. Thank you so much, everybody, and hope everybody has a good one. And stay safe from all the air pollution going on.
Thank you.